Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today by putting you in a very specific, very relatable scenario. Picture this. It is Saturday afternoon. You have walked into a pharmacy or maybe one of those high-end department stores with the really aggressive lighting. You know the ones. You're standing right in the middle of the beauty aisle.
The Sephora trance, as some people in the industry call it.
Exactly, the Sephora trance. You are surrounded by thousands of bottles and jars. Some are pastel and cute, and some look like they belong in a sterile medical lab. And you have this split brain experience right there in the aisle. On one hand, you feel this rush of excitement. You think, oh, if I buy this cream, I will look like I slept 8 solid hours. If I eat these gummy bears, I will have hair like a mermaid.
It is marketing at its absolute finest. Because it sells hope.
Right, it sells hope. But then you pull out your phone. Maybe you see a news notification or a video from a dermatologist or an article from a consumer watchdog group. And suddenly the headlines are screaming at you. Toxic chemicals in your shampoo. Lead in your lipstick. Those gummies are a complete scam. And that initial hope instantly turns into this crushing existential dread.
Yeah, we actually have a name for this phenomenon in the industry analysis. It's called the beauty paradox.
The beauty paradox. I like that. It sounds very dramatic.
It is dramatic. And it is the fundamental conflict of the modern consumer. We use these products to look healthy, to feel vibrant, to signal vitality to the world. We take supplements because we want to optimize our bodies. But the sources we have for today's deep dive suggest that in a lot of cases, we might be doing the exact opposite.
We might be poisoning ourselves to look pretty.
Poisoning is a strong word, but in some specific cases, yes, we are applying toxicity directly to our skin. Or at the very least, we are taking supplements that until very recently, the scientific consensus said were completely useless.
Okay, that is a heavy setup, but that is exactly why we are here doing this deep dive. We are not just going to read the back of the bottle and believe the hype. We have a massive stack of research to get through today, right?
We are going incredibly deep today. We have to, because the nuance is really where the truth lives. We have clinical reviews on hair loss and biotin that span from what I call the dark ages of 2017 all the way to brand new breaking data from 2025.
Right, and we also have toxicological reports analyzing heavy metals and things you use every single day, like sunblock and foundation.
Yes, we have papers on endocrine disruptors, they're hormonal hijackers, and they're linked to breast cancer. And finally, we have the legal text of mercury.
Mercury. That sounds like a villain in a Godzilla movie. Mothra versus Mercury.
It really does. It stands for the Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act. It's essentially the new sheriff in town for the U.S. beauty industry, and it is trying to clean up what has basically been the Wild West.
Okay, so our mission today is to help everyone listening navigate the chemistry of their bathroom cabinet without having a complete panic attack. We want to move from blind consumer to informed skeptic.
Precisely. We want to give you the tools to look at a label and know what you are actually buying.
Let us start with the inside-out approach. The things we eat, specifically the supplement dilemma. I feel like we have to talk about the hair gummy.
Oh, the blue bears. The little pastel hearts.
Yes. You cannot scroll through social media without seeing an influencer holding a bottle of these things, promising that if you eat 2 a day, you will turn into Rapunzel. And the star ingredient is always biotin.
Biotin or vitamin B7. It is the absolute holy grail of hair marketing.
But here's where I get so confused. I feel like for years I have heard smart people, doctors and scientists say that biotin is a total scam, that it does nothing.
You heard correctly. For a long time, that was the absolute scientific consensus. If we go back to our source stack, specifically a major clinical review published in Skin Appendage Disorders in 2017, the conclusion was brutal.
How brutal are we talking?
Well, let us unpack what biotin actually does in the body. It is an essential cofactor for carboxylase enzymes.
Okay, pause. Cofactor for carboxylase enzymes. That sounds like Star Trek technobabble. What does that mean in human terms?
Fair enough. Think of your body as a massive construction site. You have workers building fats, proteins, and carbohydrates. Those workers are the enzymes. But those workers cannot do their job with their bare hands. They need tools. Biotin is the tool belt.
Okay, so without the tool belt, the house does not get built.
Exactly. If you have a true biotin deficiency, the workers stop working. You get hair loss, you get scary red rashes, your nails get brittle. It is bad.
So does that not mean taking the gummy should help?
Here is the kicker from that 2017 review. True biotin deficiency is incredibly rare in the developed world. We get plenty of it from our daily diet. Eggs, nuts, seeds, sweet potato, spinach.
So most of us already have the tool belt.
We have the tool belt, and we have spare tool belts sitting in the truck. The 2017 review found that in healthy individuals, meaning people who are not starving or pregnant, there was limited to zero evidence that dumping more synthetic biotin into the system did anything at all.
So if my gas tank is full and I keep pumping gas,
It spills on the ground, or in this case, your kidneys just filter out. You end up with very expensive vitamin-enriched urine.
that is deeply disappointing. So all those people buying gummies in 2018 were just flushing money down the toilet.
Unless they had a specific pathology. The study did mention it helps with certain rare conditions. There is brittle nail syndrome or genetic issues like biotinidase deficiency, or my personal favorite medical term, uncombable hair syndrome.
Uncombable hair syndrome, that sounds like a fake disease I would make up to get out of going to a party. Oh, I cannot come tonight. My hair is uncombable.
But a real genetic condition. The hair grows in these disordered bundles and literally cannot be combed flat. In those rare cases, biotin actually helps. But for the average person just wanting thicker hair, the 2017 data said it is a placebo.
Okay, so that was the narrative. Save your money. But you did not just bring old papers today. You brought 25 papers.
I did, and this is where it gets really, really interesting. Science is not static. We have two new studies, one from Cosmoderma and one from Curious, both published in 2025. And they challenge the "it does not work" narrative.
So biotin is back from the dead.
Yes, but with a major twist. The 2017 studies were looking at synthetic isolated biotin, the stuff made in a lab. The 2025 studies looked at plant-based formulations.
Okay, so nature versus the lab. Where are they getting this plant biotin from?
Specifically from Sesbania grandiflora.
Sesbania grandiflora. That sounds like a spell from Harry Potter.
It is commonly known as the agave tree, or the hummingbird tree. And in these new studies, they did not just use the biotin from this tree. They combined it with silica derived from Bambusa arundinacea.
Bamboo?
Bamboo. So you have a hummingbird tree and bamboo cocktail, basically.
Why does the source matter, though? I remember from high school chemistry that a molecule is a molecule. Biotin is just carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, and sulfur. Why does the body care if it came from a test tube or a leaf?
That is the million-dollar question. The prevailing theory in these new studies is about bioavailability and synergy. It is the entourage effect.
I usually hear about the entourage effect with other substances.
It applies here, too. When you isolate a vitamin in a lab, it is like listening to a violin soloist. It is just that one single note. When you extract it from a plant, it comes bound with other co-nutrients, enzymes, and proteins. It is like listening to the whole orchestra.
So the body recognizes the orchestra as real food rather than just a chemical spike.
Exactly. The absorption is likely much better.
Yeah.
And the silica plays a huge role, too. Biotin helps the keratin, which is the structure of the hair. Silica is essential for collagen synthesis, which is essentially the soil the hair grows in. They work together.
Okay, the theory sounds really nice, but let us talk hard data, because I saw a number in your notes that made me physically stop reading. You wrote 99% reduction in hair fall.
I did.
That sounds fake. That sounds like a spam email in my junk folder. Lose 99% of your hair fall instantly? How did they measure that? Did they just ask people, hey, does your hair feel thicker?
No, and that is why these studies are so significant. They did not rely on self-reporting. They used a 60-second hair comb test.
Which is exactly what it sounds like.
Literally exactly. They have the patients lean over a white sheet and comb their hair for exactly 60 seconds. Then the researchers count every single strand that falls out.
That sounds incredibly tedious.
It is tedious, but it is science. In the baseline group, or before treatment, people were losing maybe 20 to 30 hairs in that minute. After 90 days on the Sesbania and Bampi complex, the hair fall count in the observational studies dropped to near zero.
Near zero.
Negligible numbers.
Right.
Like going from 20 hairs down to almost none. And it was not just retention either. They used digital phototrichograms, which are microscopic scalp photos, to measure growth speed. They found the growth rate increased by 0.55 millimeters per day.
Which to a listener might sound tiny. Half millimeter.
But hair grows slowly. Increasing the rate by 0.55 millimeters per day is a massive acceleration. Over a month, that is very noticeable length.
And did they see benefits elsewhere or just on the head?
Skin hydration went up by 31%. Wrinkle depth reduced. Nail growth increased by 40%.
So the takeaway for the listener standing in the supplement aisle right now is that details really matter.
Details absolutely matter. Do not just look for biotin on the front. If you are a healthy person, the synthetic stuff might not do much for you at all. But if you turn it around and see Sesbania or a plant-based complex with silica from bamboo, the 2025 science says you are actually putting your money into something that works.
That is actually a really hopeful start. We've solved the hair problem.
We did.
Now I have to be the bearer of bad news. We have to leave the happy land of bamboo trees and talk about the toxic truth. We need to talk about what we are putting on our skin.
This is where the deep dive gets a little darker. We are transitioning from nutrition to toxicology, the outside-in problem.
We have a study here from PMC titled Evaluation of Heavy Metals in Cosmetic Products. Now, when I hear heavy metals, I think of lead paint. I think of old plumbing. I do not think of my daily face lotion.
Unfortunately, you should. This study analyzed various cosmetic brands for what we call the Big Five: cadmium, chromium, iron, nickel, and lead.
And they found them.
They found them. But what was most disturbing, and frankly what shocked me when I first read the report, was where they found the highest concentrations.
I am going to guess mascara or eyeliner, something with a really heavy dark pigment.
You would think so, but no. The highest average concentrations of chromium, nickel, and lead were found in sunblock.
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 The thing we literally slather on our entire bodies and our kids' bodies to prevent cancer.
That's very sane.
That feels like a betrayal. Why sunblock of all things?
It is likely the sourcing. Sunblocks use mineral blockers like zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. These are mined from the earth, and the earth is messy. If those minerals are not purified with extreme rigor, they bring their neighbors with them. Lead, cadmium, nickel, they all hang out in the exact same geological deposits.
So they're not adding lead on purpose in a lab. It is just dirty ingredient.
Exactly. It is contamination, not formulation. But the human body does not care why it is there. It only cares that it is there.
But the beauty industry always says, oh, it is just trace amounts. It is safe. The dose makes the poison right.
That is the standard defense. The dose makes the poison. And that is technically true, but we need to look at the math. The researchers calculated something called the margin of safety, or MONAS.
Okay, let us get technical for a second. How do you calculate a margin of safety?
It is a ratio. You take the no observed adverse effect level, which is basically the absolute highest dose that does not hurt a lab animal, and you divide it by the systemic exposure dosage, which is how much of the product a human actually absorbs into their blood during normal use.
So safe dose divided by actual dose.
Correct. In toxicology, you want that number to be big. You want a wide buffer. Generally, if the MOS is above 100, it is considered safe. It means the safe dose is 100 times higher than what you are actually using.
And if it is below 100?
The red light starts flashing. It is technically not safe for use.
And what did they find for the sunblock?
For lotions and sunblocks, the MOS for cadmium, chromium, and lead was found to be below 100 in certain studies.
So strictly speaking, based on the math used by toxicologists, those products should not be on the shelf.
Based on those specific parameters, no, they should not. And sunblock is particularly bad because of how we use it. You do not put a tiny little dot of sunblock on your earlobe. You cover your whole body. The surface area is huge. The frequency is high, especially on vacation. So the systemic exposure dosage shoots way up, which completely tanks the safety function.
And these metals, they do not just wash off in the shower.
No, that is the true insidiousness of heavy metals.
Yeah.
Bioaccumulation. Lead, for example, is a molecular mimic. To the human body, lead looks a whole lot like calcium. So your body grabs the lead and stores it in your bones, thinking it is building strength.
It checks in, but it never checks out.
It stays for decades. Cadmium accumulates in the kidneys, chromium builds up in the liver. Over time, this causes cellular death, DNA damage, and severe oxidative stress. It is a slow poison.
This is terrifying. But here's the problem. If I pick up a bottle of sunblock, lead is obviously not on the ingredient list.
No, of course not, because it is a contaminant. They do not have to list contaminants.
But there is one word on the label that is an ingredient, and it seems to be hiding a lot of secrets.
Yes. The fragrance loophole.
I hate this loophole so much.
It is the ultimate black box of the beauty industry. Under U.S. law, and honestly in many places globally, the word parfum or fragrance is considered a trade secret.
Which means what exactly for you and me?
Which means that one single word on the label can represent a mixture of dozens or even hundreds of different chemicals, and the company does not have to disclose a single one of them to you, the consumer.
So if I'm allergic to something, or if there is a known toxin in that specific scent profile,
you are flying completely blind. The source analysis of toxic substances points out that this fragrance mixture often contains strong allergens like limon and linalool. These oxidize on the skin and cause contact dermatitis. But beyond just allergies, phthalates, which we will get to in a second, are very often hidden inside that fragrance bucket to make the scent last longer.
It is wild that I can buy a cheap candy bar and know exactly how many grams of sugar are in it down to the decimal, but I can put a luxury lotion on my face and have zero idea what actually creates the smell.
Is a massive regulatory gap.
Hmm.
Smells like ocean breeze usually means smells like a highly complex chemical slurry.
Speaking of complex chemical slurries, we need to move to part 3 of our outline. We have talked about heavy metals, which are outright toxic. Now we need to talk about the chemicals that are sneaky, the endocrine disruptors.
The hormonal hijackers.
We are talking about parabens and phthalates. These names are everywhere now. Paraben-free is plastered on every single bottle. But why? What do they actually do in the product?
While they do have legitimate jobs, parabens are preservatives. They stop mold and bacteria from growing in your face cream. You really do not want moldy cream.
Fair point. And phthalates.
They are plasticizers. They make nail polish flexible so it does not chip immediately. They help hairspray not be too stiff and flaky. And like I mentioned, they help that secret fragrance stick to your skin for 8 straight hours.
So they are functional. Why are they suddenly the bad guys?
Because of their molecular shape. They are EDCs, endocrine disrupting chemicals. Parabens specifically are structurally very, very similar to estrogen.
So the body gets confused.
Exactly. It is a lock and key system. Your cells have receptors, which are the locks waiting for estrogen, which is the key. Parabens are essentially a fake key that fits perfectly into the lock. They bind to those estrogen receptors.
And what happens when they bind?
They can trigger inappropriate hormonal responses. They can signal cells to divide when they absolutely should not be dividing.
And this brings us to the cancer connection. The source you provided discusses this specifically in the context of breast cancer.
This is the most controversial and deeply concerning part of the research. The expert source cites a very famous and somewhat infamous study by Darby et al. They analyzed actual breast tumor tissues from women who had breast cancer.
And what did they find in the tissue?
They found parabens in 100% of the tissue samples analyzed.
100%. Every single one.
Every single one. Now, the scientist to me has to put up a massive stop sign here. We must be rigorous with the data. Presence does not equal cause.
Right. Just because the parabens were hanging out at the scene of the crime does not necessarily mean they pulled the trigger.
Exactly. But it establishes something crucial called biological plausibility. It proves that these chemicals are absorbing right through the skin, say from deodorant or body lotion applied under the arm. They are not being broken down by the liver like we hoped, and they are accumulating perfectly intact right in the breast tissue.
Which is the exact tissue that is most sensitive to estrogen-driven cancers.
Precisely. And the epidemiology strongly reinforces the concern. Another study showed that women in the highest quintile of paraben exposure, meaning the top 20% of heavy users, had a 30% to 50% higher risk of breast cancer compared to low users.
That is not a small number. That is a massive statistical jump in risk.
It is hugely significant, and here is where it gets really infuriating from a social perspective. The sources highlight what they call a justice angle. This exposure is not random.
What do you mean by that?
The risk is not spread evenly across the population. Women of color, specifically Black and Latino women, and low-income communities face significantly higher exposure to these chemicals.
Why is that?
It is a toxic combination of targeted marketing and basic economics. Products marketed specifically to these demographics, things like hair relaxers, chemical straighteners, specific styling gels, historically contain much higher levels of these EDCs.
And the clean beauty brands that do not use these chemicals?
Are expensive. They are positioned as a luxury good. If you are on a tight budget, you are very often forced to buy the products with the cheaper, much harsher preservatives.
So safety literally becomes a class issue.
Sadly, yes. And we cannot forget occupational hazards. Think about the women working in nail salons. They are leaning over fumes of solvents and phthalates for 10 hours a day. It is a severely compounded risk over time.
Hearing all this, the lead in the sunblock, the fake hormones in the lotion, it makes you angry. It makes you ask who is watching the store. Where's the government in all this? If I sold a sandwich with lead in it, the health department would shut me down in an hour.
That brings us perfectly to part 4. The sheriff arrives. Or I guess the sheriff finally wakes up from an 80-year nap.
We are talking about regulation. And I feel like to truly understand the U.S. system, you have to compare it to Europe.
The comparison is stark. And frankly, it's a little embarrassing. The source, Navigating Cosmetic Regulation, lays out the hard numbers.
Maybe with the numbers.
The European Union has banned or strictly restricted over 1,600 substances from use in cosmetics. Carcinogens, mutagens, reproductive toxins. If it is shady, it is out.
1,600. Okay, that sounds like a robust, comprehensive list. And the US FDA?
Historically, the U.S. has banned or restricted about 11.
11. Wait, not 1,100, just one. One.
11?
I do not even have an analogy for that. That is just incredible negligence. Do American bodies metabolize poison differently than French bodies?
No, our biology is exactly the same. Our philosophy is entirely different. The EU operates on the precautionary principle. If there is a hint that something might be dangerous, they ban it until the company proves it is safe. Guilty until proven innocent.
And the US?
The U.S. has historically used a post-market approach. You can sell pretty much anything you want, innocent until proven toxic. The FDA could only step in after people started getting hurt.
So we are basically the crash test dummies for the beauty industry.
In many ways, yes. In the EU, you need a comprehensive safety report before a product ever hits the shelf. In the U.S., companies were technically responsible for their own safety, but they did not really have to show their homework to the teacher.
But you mentioned a new law earlier, MOL-ORE.
Yes, the Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act of 2022. It is the first major update to U.S. cosmetic law since 1938.
1938, we were listening to the radio and driving Model Ts.
Exactly. The world has changed a bit since then. So MOL-ORE is a very big deal.
So what does it actually do? Does it ban the 1,600 chemicals to match Europe?
No, it is not nearly that aggressive. But it completely changes the accountability structure. First, it mandates adverse event reporting.
Which means what in practice?
Before mercury, if a company sold a conditioner that made people's hair fall out or gave them severe chemical burns, they technically did not have to tell the FDA. They could just settle the lawsuits quietly and keep selling it.
That is insane to me.
It was a massive loophole. Now, if there's a serious adverse event, meaning death, hospitalization, serious persistent rashes, they absolutely must report it to the FDA within 15 business days.
So it finally creates a paper trail.
Exactly. If a product is hurting people, the FDA will know much, much faster. Second is mandatory registration. Facilities and products must be officially registered with the FDA.
So the FDA finally has a list of who is making what.
Yes, you cannot just mix chemicals in your bathtub and sell it on the internet without being on the federal radar anymore. And third is safety substantiation. Companies are now legally required to maintain records proving their product is safe before selling it.
Wait, you were telling me that was not required before 2022?
It was expected, but now it is codified law. If the FDA comes knocking, you have to hand over the actual toxicology data.
And what about the forever chemicals, PFAS? I keep hearing about those in the news.
MOL-ORE specifically mandates the FDA to deeply assess the use of PFAS in cosmetics. There is a comprehensive report due to be published late in 2025. This is the government finally admitting, hey, maybe we should look at these Teflon chemicals in our waterproof mascara.
So it is progress, but it sounds like we are still playing a game of catch-up to Europe.
We are, but it is a very significant step forward. However, this new regulation actually leads us to a brand new problem. As consumers get scared and as laws tighten up, marketing gets a lot trickier.
Enter the clean beauty trap.
Exactly. You walk into the store right now and everything has a little green leaf on it. Clean, natural, non-toxic, eco-safe.
I fall for this every single time. I see a green leaf, I buy it. Are you telling me it is a lie?
I'm telling you, it is undefined. The source beauty industry giants collide makes it extremely clear. There is no legal definition of clean beauty anywhere in U.S. law.
So I could literally put arsenic in a bottle, slap a green leaf on it, and call it clean beauty.
Well, the arsenic might get you arrested for other reasons.
Yeah.
But the word clean itself is just unregulated marketing. It means whatever the brand wants it to mean that day.
So how do we actually know what is real?
The industry is desperately trying to self-regulate. There is a group mentioned in the sources called the Know Better, Do Better Collaborative, or KBDB. They're trying to use actual science-backed data to standardize what clean really means across the board.
Right.
But there's a huge danger here called regrettable substitution.
Regrettable substitution? That sounds like when I try to date someone new immediately after a bad breakup.
It is very similar. It is when a company removes a bad ingredient because of public pressure. Say they take out parabens because everyone is terrified of them, but they have to replace it with something to stop the mold. So they swap in a newer, completely different preservative.
One that has not been studied nearly as much.
Exactly. Or one that is technically natural, but is highly allergenic.
Yeah.
We are trading a known devil for an entirely unknown devil. Out of the frying pan into the fire.
Precisely. The report specifically highlights lip color as a high-risk category for this exact phenomenon.
Why lip color specifically?
Because of accidental ingestion.
Right. We eat our lipstick.
We do. Over a lifetime, the average lipstick wearer ingests literal pounds of product. It is not just sitting on the skin, it is constantly entering the digestive tract. Yet the report found that lip products still have a very troubling trend of containing high-hazard chemicals.
So the one product we are definitely eating all day is the one they have not bothered to clean up yet.
It certainly seems that way based on the data.
This has been a lot. My bathroom cabinet looks very, very different to me right now. It looks like a minefield.
It is a minefield, but the point of this deep dive is that you have a map now.
So let us synthesize this. Let us give you, the listener, the map. What does the informed consumer actually do starting tomorrow?
Let us break it down. First, supplements. The old biotin does not work narrative is officially outdated. The new 2025 science says formulation is absolutely everything. Action item for you. Turn the bottle around. If it is a synthetic isolate, maybe skip it. If you see Sesbania grandiflora and bamboo for silica, you are looking at data that supports that 99% reduction in hair fall.
Exactly right. Second, cosmetics. Understand the invisible risks. Sunblock is a heavy metal hotspot. Lotions are a hormone hotspot.
Action item. Be satisfyingly suspicious of the word fragrance on any label.
Yes, if you can choose fragrance-free products. Or look for the rare brands that openly disclose their full scent ingredient list. And be very wary of the clean label. Do not trust the marketing buzzword. Trust the actual ingredient list on the back.
And what about the law? What is the takeaway there?
Know that mercury is working in the background. The industry is being legally forced to clean up its act. But the U.S. is still playing catch-up. You cannot assume absolute safety just because a product is sitting on a shelf at a major trusted retailer. The burden of safety is still very much on you.
Vote with your wallet. Support brands that show their work. Transparency is the new currency in beauty.
It absolutely has to be.
Before we wrap up, is there one final thought that keeps you up at night regarding all of this research?
There is. I keep thinking about that paraben study we discussed. The 100% presence in the tumor tissue.
It is haunting to think about.
It is. And the provocative question I keep asking myself is this. If we know these chemicals actively mimic estrogen, and we know we are applying them daily to the exact area of our bodies most susceptible to estrogen-driven cancer, are we essentially running a massive, uncontrolled biological experiment on ourselves in the name of beauty?
And we are doing it just for the sake of smelling like vanilla bean or ocean breeze.
And why did it take until 2022 for the U.S. government to decide they should perhaps finally keep a list of the companies making these products?
That is a deeply unsettling question that will definitely stick with me.
As it should. It should stick with all of us.
Well, on that note, everyone, go check your bathroom cabinets, turn the bottles around, read the fine print, stay curious, stay skeptical, and we will see you on the next deep dive.
Stay informed out there.
Bye for now.